Gina Miller became a household name in 2016 when she took the British government to the Supreme Court over Brexit, and she won, twice in fact. But the high-profile case saw her receive a torrent of horrific abuse, including death threats against herself and her family. Despite that, Gina wants to move even further into politics. She started a political party, the True and Fair Party, and she plans to run as a candidate in the next general election. Gina joins me now. Hi, Gina, and
Hi.
Welcome. I don't think you and I could have been more on more extreme political ends of the Brexit argument during Brexit. You're one of the most vocal campaigners, anti-Brexit campaigners, and I want to ask you about things like, the Windsor Framework and other stuff, but, just reading then, your new political party is called the True and Fair Party. What do you think was true and fair about trying to prevent what was the result of a people's referendum, a people's vote into whether or not we stayed in the EU? You tried consistently to stop that from happening. What's true and fair about that?
I didn't try at all, actually, to do that. And if you read both
Gina,
cases...
come on.
Well, if you read the cases, you'll see that we never even mentioned Brexit.
Gina, I've been on many programmes, I've been on a number of programmes with you on television, and preventing Brexit is what you're booked for. It's the reason why people spoke to you, because you were the advocate, the anti-Brexit advocate, all the way through. And Gina,
I think you'll find that
done.
the newspapers gave me that tag. And it's always important...
well done, Gina, because people did rally behind you.
No, I don't think they did, because actually I was not part of any of the organisations that said we should have had another vote. I didn't agree with any of that. What I think is really important to remember is that if we hadn't done it properly through Parliament, because Parliament is sovereign, that was the whole point of that, was defending parliamentary sovereignty.
Yeah.
But in both cases, shutting down Parliament would have actually created an awful lot of constitutional uncertainty, domestically and internationally. And I'm a geek. I've been reading this stuff, and it's not just about this government or this Parliament or actually Brexit. I actually was on my first demonstrations back in '97. I've always been concerned about the way Parliament has operated and the fact that Parliament is there for the people and to follow certain processes and procedures. If they're not followed, then what is the point of having parliamentary sovereignty?
Well, there is no place like a Parliament for following procedures and processes. You work in business, Gina, and I only wish business in general, banking particularly, was as scrutinised and followed procedures and processes as well as Parliament does. I mean, it's, as you're a woman from business, I would ask you that if you're looking towards Parliament, to scrutinise Parliament, look towards business as well, because there are a lot of people in the country that think that maybe bankers need that kind of scrutiny too.
Oh, so do I. I actually wrote legislation in the EU when we were in, just on bankers' bonuses, on something called MiFID and PRIPS, lots of rules to come in. Because after the financial crisis, I was very suspicious that actually nothing would really change. So whilst I might have popped up in these two political cases, I have been a campaigner for nearly 30 years. And the things I've been banging on about is improving governance, transparency and scrutiny. So it's not, I agree with you, it's missing, I was one of the original triple bottom liners in '96 talking about more governance. I mean, now we call it ESG, but these things are important. The structures, the way things operate, the cultures and organisations, how they serve people, the outcomes for consumers, be they the voter or somebody who's buying a product or as a client in a bank or investment company. Those same clients need to have access to better
A point I'd make on this is one of the things that you've said is you wanted to talk negotiating and talking about a better relationship with the EU. The thing that I find quite interesting is that in terms of accountability, transparency, what you get between the UK government and what you get between the EU, like you and I, politically poles apart, they couldn't be more different. The people who are running the EU aren't even elected, Gina. At least here, our politicians are elected. Nobody gets a say over who makes the laws in the EU and how the money is spent.
7 years
Gina,
ago.
their accounts haven't been audited for what, 40-odd years? So why is it you want to better... Well, yes, of course, because we campaigned pretty hard to do that. And
I made sure it was done legally, so we've now left.
But I just find it interesting that someone like you, who's pointing a finger at Parliament and at Westminster and at the UK, and even, as you just said, our own business industries. You say you've been a campaigner for 30 years for transparency and openness and processes, and yet you're a campaigner. You're talking now about wanting a better relationship with the EU, and that is the most opaque, obscure, unelected, undemocratic institution imaginable.
What I'm saying is...
I just can't marry that together.
No. So we signed something called the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. You passed it through Parliament. That is now part of a treaty that we signed up to. In that treaty, there are mechanisms for us to resolve any issues that they come up sector by sector. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about going back in. I'm talking about let's resolve some of the issues so that we have a better relationship and our economy is functioning better. Because actually what we all want, or I think we should all be aiming for, is more growth, more economic stability so that we can fund our public services and give people a better outcome in their lives. So that's what I'm talking about. It's using the Trade and Cooperation Agreement that we all signed up to and the mechanisms in that. I'm not talking about new laws or negotiating a new deal or anything like that. It's just using what we already have.
So, Gina, you're an incredibly intelligent woman, and when you say things like, I want us to start talking about having a better relationship with the EU, what you just said to me, no one will believe you. All people will see is you using that as clever language to, by cut, via a war of attrition, via step by very step, moving us back into the control of the EU.
Parliament will have to be involved.
That's what
process.
people will interpret that as.
No, because I can't control Parliament. You don't control Parliament. If I do manage to become successful and I'm an MP, I'm one of 650 odd. So it's about Parliament. It goes back to whatever happens next. I mean, if Parliament decided, if they brought a bill saying that the UK now believes that the Earth is flat, and that was voted through Parliament, that would be our opinion. So none of this is possible without Parliament. So what I'm saying is, let's use the mechanisms that are there, and then it goes back to Parliament. Parliament always has the last say.
Well, we're out, Gina, and we're not going to agree on this. But what I would like to talk to you about, actually, is something that I think you will know a lot about. I'm absolutely staggered that we've put corporation tax up to 25% in the UK. I'm concerned about the lack of investment that we're going to see down the line from the tech industry, which is our boom industry across the world, not just in the UK. What do you think we're going to do as a country to make it more attractive for business and more attractive for people to invest in the UK?
I think, first of all, we have to have political stability and we have to have a rule of law that's functioning without being attacked. The language that we use in a country, when I go around the world, what they say to me is that they're worried about us. They're worried that there's too much infighting, there's too much division, that public policy is not delivering on
Which
skills.
countries are saying this, Gina?
Well, when I go to
can't
Europe,
find a stable country anywhere in the world at the moment.
Well, at the moment, yes, there's a lot that's going on around the world. Geopolitically, around the world, there's a lot to worry about every country, but we have to concentrate on us domestically here. And one of the things we know is that inward investment has really stalled. It's absolutely right. Inward investment is not doing where it is. Businesses are saying we don't have the skills in the workforce that we need to fulfill those tech businesses if they did come here. We have staff shortages. We have problems with the way that our mental health in our workforce is happening at the moment. We're not on top of that. So there are issues that we need to fix, but these are seismic issues that are not actually about one political party or the other. This is going back a long time. So what we need to do, in my view, is look at how do we approach each of these problems in a much more collaborative, longer-term view so that we can bring back real stability that then people will look to invest in the UK. That's my view.
So, Gina, you're standing for election. Epsom Newell?
Yes.
How did they vote in Brexit? Was that a Remain or a Leave constituency?
They were just Leave. Okay. And the incumbent is Mr. Grayling, Chris Grayling.
Oh, right, OK. So you become an MP, say you get elected at the next general election, which could come very soon, actually. Say you're elected at the next general election and you get a 10-minute rule bill. What will be your first 10-minute rule bill?
To put the ministerial code into law.
Ah, right, interesting. And what will you do for your constituents?
Well, my constituency, I'm talking to them, and the local manifesto is about putting Epsom and Newell on the map and solving people's problems. I think that's why we go into politics. It's why, I originally said I'd never go into politics.
We all say that,
yeah,
Gina.
But I have to.
For 25 years. What will you actually do for your constituents?
Well, the three things I do straight away is look at regenerating the high street. Secondly is solving the housing problem, making it affordable so young people stay in constituency rather than leaving. And the third thing I would do is actually look at how we're doing building on green belts. It actually should be brown before green. So
you do the same things Chris Grayling's done then. So Gina...
He hasn't delivered any of those.
Well, and so welcome to politics and welcome to Westminster. So the other thing I'd like to ask you about is the abuse that you suffered when the death threats, and to your children too. Now, I had problems with. We females. I won't ask women to stand.
I was going to say. I think what the abuse all women get is terrible.
It
is
horrific.
It is.
And I won't ask women to stand for Parliament because I think in today's social media-enabled world, in the days of 24/7 rolling news, and everybody having an opinion politically, particularly a political opinion, it's
really hard.
It's actually quite a dangerous environment to work in. So, given the threats to your children as well, why are you doing it? Because what you've experienced so far is like nothing as to what you will receive if you win.
Actually, speaking to a lot of MPs, what I've received has been 3 times what most MPs are. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't think anybody should be threatened if they are standing for or they're in their job and doing their job. Absolutely, male or female. But every female MP I've spoken to, advised, especially, the amount of abuse. And actually, what really worries me is everyone says it's normal. So we've sort of normalised it now, which we have to actually say it's not normal and call it out. The reason I've decided that I am going to stand is actually I've waited for my children to be older so that I can do that. And I've discussed it with them and my husband and my wider family. And I actually always said I'd never get into politics. But the reason I've decided to on this occasion is I think that there's an opportunity to really modernise the way we are actually doing politics in the country. We've got a very old system. And I think we need to modernise that. But when it comes to me personally, I'm a tough old boot. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I've lived on £20 a week with my daughter who has special needs. Look, I've survived so much. I think I have the resilience to be able to do something, not forever. I don't want to be an MP forever. If I'm lucky enough to be chosen, it would probably be for one parliament so I can go and do something that I believe in, which is modernising our constitution.
Gosh, are you going to tell it to your constituents that you only want to do it for one parliament?
Well, I've been perfectly honest and said that I think if there's a hung parliament, then there's an opportunity to really bring in change. And in one parliament, to bring in the sort of constitutional change and electoral reform into, say, a citizens' assembly, that is doable in a parliament.
So, Gina, I wish you, well, obviously, I can't wish you, every success, but I hope you enjoy the time and the process that you're going through. I think, like many of us, you're going into the process with rose-tinted glasses, but
I don't think I am.
But I do hope you enjoy it, and I hope it's something that you do benefit from.
I'm very passionate about it because it's about helping. And you say everyone says that, but actually, who delivers it? I'm more interested in delivering.
Yeah, I know, and we all are. We all go in with exactly the same objectives, and many of us do deliver.
Yeah.
So thanks, Gina.